Hello, everyone, and welcome to CareersTalk. I'm Suran Sharma, an Agile consultant based in Netherlands, and today we are going to discuss Scrum Master interview question asked at Big Four, shared by our group member. And to help us, we have invited Deepa Shri from USA. And this is the part two of our series featuring Deepa, who is helping us with all these answers. And you can find the link to the part one in the description or in the very first pin comment. So make sure to check it out later. But friends, before we start, don't forget to subscribe for more such informative session. And if you find the content valuable, which I'm sure you will, don't forget to smash that like button. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome, Deepa. Thank you for joining us again. Deepa.
Thank you so much, Sunan, to have me again. This is part two, like you mentioned. So, of course, ready to help answer the questions. And let's see how it goes. Over to
Okay,
you.
wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. So the very first question is, what the most effective intervention or things which you done in the past to help your team to move from doing agile to a being agile, and what changed afterward? So
Mhm.
that's really a good question, I think, to start with. Over
Mhm.
to you.
Mhm. Um, so number one thing, right? Before even talking about agility, I want to talk about something known as team dynamics, right? What's the maturity of my team? Sometimes and especially today when we talk about agility, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has become like waterfall. Everybody knows about it. It's not that you have to go and train them. Hey, this is what agile works like. So just like we don't have a waterfall coach, we don't have an agile coach attached to every team as well. So what happens is, depending on the maturity. Now, if my team really has no idea what agile is all about, I would actually want them to do agile before being agile. Why? Because this resonates with the shuhari, which is a Japanese concept. So sometimes when you don't know anything, you don't understand what is the benefit of what I am doing, just like a diet that we follow. We don't know what benefit it is going to bring me. Trust blindly and follow the process, right? So I go ahead with Shuhari. So whatever is being asked, please do agile first before being agile, right? Now, after a certain time, when the team is used to the ways of working, of doing things, now is the time to actually help them understand why we are doing. Because at the end of the day, uh, we got to remember that we are not doing it for the framework, we are doing it for the business, right? Agile is not
True.
uh, about I am implementing agile to the core. No, that's not our goal. Our goal is, are we delivering the business value that this team was supposed to do, right? So what I gradually do then, after like I said, that when the team is used to doing agile, uh, we start focusing not to just follow the framework to the T, but asking the question, are we delivering value continuously? Right? So the shift of focus is from process adherence to value centric thinking. Make sense? So what I did was, eventually, once I know my team has understood the do's and don'ts of a particular framework, I introduce something called outcome mapping alongside with the Scrum team, the POs, the business, and we start having the all the events or ceremonies that we have in Scrum, or whether you're doing scaled agile, or whether you're doing Kanban, we start to ensure, I as a coach will start to ensure that we are asking those questions again and again. Are we delivering value? What are we? Why are we introducing this? And how it is going to eventually end up with the outcome that I want, right? So what happens is, we don't talk about velocity, but rather we talk about business value. Did we meet it? Did we manage to get the business value that we wanted? And what eventually happens as we keep following this, and again, it's not a one day thing. It requires a lot of consistency, a lot of commitment, a lot of failures. When you keep doing this, you will get questioned. And then when you keep doing it again and again and again, So you get eventually a high engagement, lot of proactive experimentation. You will see a noticeable rise also in customer satisfaction. That's what I would say is how you will move your any team from doing to being agile. And it is a gradual process. It will not happen so fast.
Absolutely. Wonderful, Deepa. I think you have covered all the major points. Just to sum up that, okay, we have to shift from command and control to coaching. That kind of mindset which we should have as a uh, agile leaders, and give the team more autonomy to decide how to meet sprint goal, how to do the stuff, and how to don't
Mm-hmm.
intervene too much. Let them solve their problems, and then I think ultimately that's what we all want, being agile to there. Okay, so wonderful, Deepa. Let's move on. Uh, okay, so the next one is interesting. It's about matrices. So, can you tell us, maybe from your past experience, when you have used matrices to uncover some hidden team issues or something which came out once you process all these matrices, and if you can share what matrices do you use, and what did you observe, and how do you act based on the data, that will be
Mm-hmm.
great.
So one of the biggest thing is what my basic learning is about metrics. Metrics should never be taken as a standalone matrix, right? Metrics
Absolutely.
should always be looked as a unison
Overall.
of other metrics, right?
Correct.
And that is why I'm saying this is because I'll quote an example that I faced. We had a team with extremely consistent velocity, right? I mean, the usual that we typically learn, right, that you should be in a certain range. Yes, they were in a certain range. It was up and down, but it's not that it's like really low, really high, consistent, right? So you can actually say that, okay, this is their range in which the team is consistently delivering. So if I look at it as a silo, it seems like it's a very high performing team, right? Because they have a consistent velocity and they are delivering whatever they have to. But when I look at in unison with other metrics, which was the cycle time, there was a lot of variation, right? So if you look at it, the team is able to deliver at a consistent rate. Yeah, and they were predictable based on only velocity. But when I'm talking, looking at the cycle time, it was, it was varying, right? So I used this, and that's why I always say, right, matrix, they are like MRI scans. So what you cannot see through visible eyes, it's going to reflect that if used properly. If so, they should be used diagnostically and not judgmentally. You are not supposed to pass on a judgment, oh, why the cycle time is low. So you have to undergo. So they are all the symptoms, right? Like any metrics, they are like symptoms. So what I did was I actually sat with them. Tried to understand, okay, what is going wrong. And in this particular case that I'm talking about, we had a problem that we did not have the right skills in the team, right? There was a shared team, so we needed, so it was not that the requirements were not clear, we did not have the resourcing, the right resourcing. So I introduced a few concepts like WIP limits, right? Then swarming. If something is we are not able to do, let's bring in more people. Let's unblock it because it's going to unblock a lot of things. So start highlighting the potential blockers. And one of the beautiful matrix which I really love is the cumulative flow diagram, because it lets you know if the my flow of value is getting in like blocked or not, right? So that is something that I leverage and I use. And time to time there are new learnings, right? Because sometimes it's resourcing, sometimes it's something else. In this particular case it was resourcing. We were able to identify it and then bring more clarity eventually.
Absolutely. I just want to add one quick example from my side. Then I think our audience will have a lot of example to quote in their actual interviews. So one such matrix is sprint burn down chart. In one of the team, I just observed that there's a recurring pattern. What this team is doing, they are just completing a large portion of the work only in the final 2 or 3 days of the sprint. So the chart show a flat line for the most of the sprint, then there is a steep drop near the end. So this is like a hockey stick pattern that suggests that the work was not being completed incrementally over the period of time. So this kind of pattern shows that either your team is doing overcommitment, so they are taking too much work and then they are rushing and closing a lot of stuff at the last phase, or there might be, they are working in silos and they are dealing integration and testing and things like that, or there might be some hidden blockers. So there are different things which you can, derive from these kind of patterns. So of course, as a scrum master, you have to facilitate a retrospective discussion. You have to put that burn down chart, trends, uh, make sure that your team understand what is this pattern is all about. Ask some open-ended question, encourage your team to reflect on the why this work has not been completed, incrementally over the period of time. And of course, we have also introduced a WIP limit things and things like that. So the idea is like, just one more example just to add, that there are various things, various patterns which you can observe over the period of time, and around that you can, help your team to yeah, overcome those challenges.
And one
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
and one
Go
of
ahead.
the observation about that kind of hockey stick pattern is people don't update the Jira boards regularly. So it's not always an issue. It's also when the boards get updated, when the stories are put to done and things like that. So yes, knowing the nature of your team, how they are working, and then
Absolutely.
identifying and leveraging the matrix is so important.
That's a
Yes.
separate discussion altogether, not updating the board. But then it
Mm.
means like your team is not transparent, or there's some issue if cannot
It's
have
not about
five.
transparency. It's about the
Their
habits,
habits,
right? Like I said, the
habits.
getting the habits right.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
consistency and habits. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So let's move on quickly. So again, one more question around matrices. So I think it's pretty common thing. People are not talking about it, but it's happening in a lot of different teams. I have seen it. So do you ever seen that your team intentionally game the matrix? For example, they are giving you story points, inflated story points, something which is just going to take, let's say, two story point, but then as a team they are coming up with five story points, or they are splitting stories unnaturally they're intentionally
Mm.
like breaking it into, so that they have more work to do, finish. And again, I don't know, I mean, I'm just making some example for you. So you have
Mm.
seen some kind of pattern in any of your team in the past, and if you have seen it, like, how you manage these kind of situation?
This is a classic example for me is the culture of the team, right? So when metrics become targets, they stop
Absolutely.
being useful. They stop being useful. If you are putting targets around matrix, the velocity has to be this much, or you have to eventually bring your velocity should be up by 5% every iteration. If you start having those kind of matrix, like or the team is smart, right? They are the knowledge workers, they'll game it, right? So rather than using matrix as targets, if we use matrix to uncover the truth about our delivery, which will help not just the management, the typical behavior is like that, right? We create matrix only to help or report to leadership, report to management. If we change that mindset, so this is very, very important. The whole idea should be that we create matrix to facilitate informed decisions, not just by the management, but by the team, right? What is my, the work that I have taken versus what work that was accepted by the PO. That's a beautiful matrix which lets the team actually see, hey, did we overcome it or did we undercommit? Was I not really sure? Were we overconfident in taking the requirements that, oh, we know it all? What was the new thing that we learned? So matrix help you uncover these kind of questions for for increasing your insight on the product and the team situation, right? And it is not for the leadership or management, it is for the team, it is for the scrum master, it is for, and there are so many kind of. So if you are using it as target to penalize or even award the team, like if you use it as a, we are going to reward this team if you have this, team is smart, they will game the matrix. So I think that I have answered my question. I did not go through this scenario because this is one of the, ways of working or the working agreement I established at the very beginning. That okay, and that helps create the psychological safety that whatever we are going to measure, it is for them and not to penalize them or award them. There will be no award with respect to these kind of behavior. Yeah.
Correct. It's not a scorecard, it's just a team internal trend, just to for them team to improve, not for some external performance ranking or something
Correct. Correct.
like that. So they should understand the purpose of metric first. That's very
Purpose,
important.
yes. Why we are measuring it? Because we
Exactly.
don't know. We are working in
I think
uncertainty.
people are afraid that the individuals are being measured. I think that's the mindset. Like, okay, if we are talking about matrices, then time will come when people will jot down to them, okay, what you are doing or something like. I think that's somewhere in the back of their mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so or maybe like they just want to show that okay, they are busy with a lot of work,
Yes.
which is again not a good way. Anyway, so the next question is, can you tell me about a time when there's some team member who dominate the discussion? We always have these kind of people in our team. So how do you make sure that there is a balance within your team? How you restore the balance? So yeah, over to you, Deepa.
Okay. One of the toughest thing I have learned is to not do any judgment, right? As a Scrum Master. So typically, there will be people who will be speaking it loud, right? Not because they are loud or not because it's intentional. It's because it's their nature, right? If they have an understanding about a topic, they are good communicator because they have the right choice of word. They also know how to put it forward in a proper way. And that's why typically you will notice that any kind of key discussions happening around sprint planning, let's say, or some design discussions, if they are good good communicator, they try to empower the discussion, right? And it is also their personality, they are able to do that. But this is not very healthy for your team. And when I say healthy, not because that person is giving the ideas, because me as a scrum master, I'm not able to bring out the different perspective that might be present within my team. Right? Each one of us are designed and wired differently. We have different ideas. And the power of agility is to bring all those ideas on the plate and take and unanimously agree which one to take forward, right? So collaboration is not about louder voices, it's about louder trust. So as a scrum master, I do acknowledge that every person is different. Some like to talk, some don't like to talk. So I am responsible for introducing different facilitation dynamics to bring in this, to ensure that all the ideas surface. Right. So I typically leverage very powerful silent brainstorming, leveraging the liberating structures of 1 to 4 and all. I also do offline kind of activity wherein people can pour in their ideas and then we come to the big room and do the discussions. I also have introduced round robin check-ins where everybody gets time to speak, right? So everybody has a capped 1 minute or 1.5 minute to speak on a particular topic, ensuring that even if you don't want to speak, you can. And when we do this, it helps keep the loudest or the more excited and energetic person also in calm, and it also does not encroach the comfort of an introvert who doesn't like to speak. So if you give smallest time, it becomes easier. So I have leveraged these, and the outcome has been that I always ensure that we have a diverse input, we have a improved decision quality, and also I do one thing, right? Because uh, being an extrovert myself, I know that if somebody stops me from expressing, I will get depressed or I'll feel demotivated. So what I also do is I ensure to coach the person and tell him to mentor the others to, so that they also, so if you redirect the energy of the most energetic person in the room to a different action, this also ensures that he or she also feels heard. right? So this is what I have done.
Wonderful, Deepa. Thank you for that elaborate answer. Wonderful. Let's move on to the next question. So next question is, have you ever been in a team where leadership said when you joined that, okay, we are doing Scrum, but people did not really believe in it. So how did you help bring real agile thinking into the team?
Now, like I said, a person of power, right? If I tell you do this, you are going to do it any which ways because we are all here for job. But if you want that each person becomes engaged, I have to bring in the intrinsic motivation in play, right? So compliance can be imposed, but commitment must be earned, right? So when you simply, as a leader, if comes and says, "Hey, start doing, agile," we'll all do agile. Being agile is a far-fetched dream, right? We started this conversation with that. So why I say this is because agility to me more than any framework or the various practices that we are talking about, right, like sprints, iterations, blah, they're all practices that we do to ensure that we are reaching there. But agility to me is all about mindset, right? So it's very, very important to understand that it is a cultural transformation versus process adoption. Process adoption is easy, cultural transformation is difficult. So what I typically do is, we before even talking about agility, I talk about the business process that we are trying to achieve, right? What is the business outcome we are trying to achieve? What are the blockers, right? What is my value stream mapping? How is it going? Where are the blocks? And then let the team know, hey, there's some known best practices in the industry that we call, scrum, safe, or anything to help you, because there are proven techniques which has worked for others, it may work for us as well, or we will, evolve around those practices. So when you make people part of that journey, that's very important, so that buy-in should come. Okay, leadership buy-in is important, but also the team buy-in is important. That yes, this is going to help me, and then take it forward from there. Life becomes much easier. It's not going to be easy, but it becomes easier, right?
Correct. True.
So,
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Deepa, for that. Okay. Uh, okay. Let's jump to our next question, and it's on a technical debt. So, in your experience, can you describe a time when technical debt become a serious issue, and how do you help your team and different other stakeholder to prioritize and address these kind of challenges?
so when it comes to technical debt, we all know why it happens, right? At least those who are working in teams, it's the time pressure most of the time. Yeah, at least whatever I have experienced, it's because of the time pressure. You have to deliver, and if there is any defect, you do some patchwork. Okay, we'll come back to it later and we'll do it. And that coming back to it never happens, right? And eventually, over a period of time, you have this huge technical debt. And there's one quote from Safe, which I really like, which says, "You cannot scale crappy code." That's so, so important. Doing it right the first time is so, so important. And what we think is, no, time is the challenge, we'll do it now. And there's also pressure. I will not lie, but there's also pressure from leadership. There's also, and it's true, because you have a timeline on this particular date. The other teams also, like, waiting for your release to happen. So you can't balance it all, right? But as a scrum master, what I have done is I maintain a technical debt register with the team, right? I ensure, okay, let us all come and put what is it that we are not completing today, what is it that we are, leaving it for future. Okay. And then through this, we also show that because we are not fixing this, right, our time to release is increased by so and so time. We are not able to do early releases. We are not able to make it that fast that we really intend to. So when you start showing the balance of how this technical debt is impacting your work to the leadership, and then get a buy-in, yes, go ahead and start fixing it, your life becomes easier. And how do you do that? Like in practical way, I have introduced, like, of course, you have to get buy-in from everybody. As a Scrum Master, you just can't say and pass on a law. You have to talk with your architect, you have to talk with owners, product managers, that guys, we are, and technical debt, let me tell you, it's not a failure of the team, right? It will happen. Obviously, you're building something absolutely new. So don't take it as a negative thing, but this is something that you have to clear. Like they say, no, you can't get into the, if you have got into the wrong train, you have to get down sooner so that your cost of return is lesser. Similarly, okay, you have accrued a technical debt, you have to fix it. So ensure that how do you bring a rhythm and a cadence to it? Allocate a dedicated capacity in your iterations, right, to work on the technical debt. You don't have to fix it all now, but if over the period of time, you got to have a plan to fix it all, right? So this helps. So first, to summarize, first take a buy-in from the leadership, right, to sponsor the technical debt, because this is an additional kind of thing that you have to do. And second is also take the buy-in of the team, that how much capacity we should allocate so that they are also comfortable clearing it up. So when you do these two things and keep monitoring, right? Are you overdoing, underdoing the technical debt? It could be that you have decided 20%, but you need 20, 30% to make it effective, or you need only 10%. So keep checking that, and every iteration keep coming back to this topic. So that helps.
Absolutely. Great, Deepa. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on to our next question. So the next question is, if you can share any incident into the past where your team continuously underestimate the backlog items that results in or that leads to the repeated spill over. So how do you coach your team toward better forecasting?
So I think we did this question last time, and you talked about Monte Carlo estimation somehow. I recall that, but see, very important when the team is underestimating things. There are two, three reasons that happens. Number one, they don't know the bigger issue that they have to solve, right? That's why the underestimation happens. Second is they want to look as proactive team, right? So somewhere the psychological safety comes into picture, where they feel that if we say we don't know it, people are not gonna trust us to deliver this work. Yeah. And the third thing, which I think also happens sometimes when you underestimate things, and think from our own day-to-day perspective, is uh, based on your experience, right? Based on your past experience, you feel this can be done. But then there are new layers of uncertainty that has come in which you are unaware of, right? So these are the only three reasons why typically people tend to underestimate. So one of the biggest thing that we follow is the Monte Carlo simulations, right? Where we try and do an estimation basis that, and focus also on, rather than vertical slicing, also focus on what's wrong, probabilistic thinking, right? So that is very important, that okay, what can go wrong, what can go right, what can go in my favor. That is very, very important when you are planning. And this is typically when I request the architects to do this kind of brainstorming with the team, the developers, and all, what can go wrong, what are the various things. And over a period of time, even if you have underestimated, let's say this time, even after doing all of this, we have underestimated, what were the different dimensions around which we should have estimated more, and make a list of it for the team so that they can build that, and over eventually ensure that when we go into the next estimation, have we considered those things that we bypassed or we miscalculated last time. So that these little things definitely helps.
Absolutely. And we have to also tell them that it's a forecast, not a commitment. So
Of course. Yes.
it's okay. It's like
Mhm.
a mind,
Mhm.
mindset shift. But
Correct.
anyway, yeah. Okay. So let's move on to our next question. So if someone is going to ask you, okay, tell me about a time when you introduce a change to any of your Scrum events. Uh,
Hmm.
so if you want to share something which you have done differently or just to maybe the situation is unique or your team
Mhm.
conditions are unique, something like that. You able to recall any of the thing which you have done, something similar?
So let me put it this way, right? When it comes to retrospectives, I experiment a lot with the various kind of formats depending on the team situation, right? If my team is going through a lot of tension kind of scenarios, because every team has a journey, right? Like, so sometimes there's a lot of pressure of work and team is frustrated. I try to use a different kind of format which will help them vent out their feelings before entering the retros. If it is more like they have achieved something, right? Something they are, so I do something called a gratitude wall first, right? Where they can write the thank you notes for the team and then get into the retrospective, things like that. Then I have also introduced a lot of time just to bring in autonomy or ensuring that everybody attends the call and all, because that's also a big thing, right? To get everybody attend the events. And so I have also done a round robin kind of like rotating facilitators amongst the team. Like, you guys lead it, right? I mean, you don't need me to facilitate the daily scrum and so on. So that I have done. For the demos, right? We have asked, of course, we do the proper demos, but we also seek little practices like, give some rating to the demo person, the one who. So we have a dashboard where they will just go and rate the how the demo was for a particular feature. So those are like it gives a feel good kind of factor, right? So try different new things, because if you because the biggest challenge with scrum events is if you monotony will bring boredom, right? So you have to always keep changing something or the other, so there should be a surprise element always that you bring in. Yeah.
Wonderful, Deepa. Thank you. Great. Let's move on to the next question. And next question again is on metric. So the question is, have you ever worked in an environment where matrices were not trusted or people just ignore them? So if you have joined such kind of team, what you are going to do? How you are going to take uh, their how you are going to gain that trust, or how you are going to build the confidence in a data-driven approach?
So I'll tell you, and why I brought that topic when you were talking about like hockey charts, and why there was a sudden dip, is everything that is data oriented, or any metric specifically, which is data oriented, where we had very, very much dependent on data. If your data is not correct, what's the point of those matrix, right? So your
Correct.
source of truth has to be 100% right. So a few things, and most of us, I don't know about others, maybe they are using something else, but like I have been using Jira for the longest period of time now, right? So for me, everything, any dashboard, any kind of matrix that I build it around Jira, right? So if my content in the Jira user stories or in the different kind of tasks that are there, right, the different issue types that we have, if that is not correct, no matter what I do and what kind of report I generate, it's not gonna be effective, right? So as a scrum master, very, very important is that the number one thing that you have to do, right? Like, I'll take one example, right, where we were talking about the various kind of defects that were coming. So now defects can be in various environments. I'm just giving a hypothetical situation, right? So it can be in a QA, it can be in dev environment. Defects are defects, and they're going to come in all. So if you are raising a defect and you are not marking the environment correctly, you will have a skewed matrix, right? You'll never know in which environment the real issue is, and then nobody is going to trust the matrix, right? So one of the key thing is educate the people who raise a particular issue type, what should be mentioned. In Jira, you can actually make those fields per actually mandatory, right? So work with your Jira admin, So come up with fixing your Jira boards to ensure that any issue, new issue type, these are the mandatory fields. Highlight, communicate, send emails that this is important. This is what we are measuring. These are the parameters that we look into. Ensure these are properly and correctly filled, right? And timely filled. So it's not only about correctness, it's also about the timeliness, right? So it comes through how you coach the team to get it done. The second thing is always remember whatever you are measuring, it should always be aligned with the purpose, right? That is going to help the leadership or the team. So if you are measuring something that nobody needs, it's no point, right? I really don't know how many defects were raised. This is probably nobody wants to know. Probably they want to know against this feature how many defects came in. This is an important matrix, right? So you have to ensure that as a scrum master you are devising or creating the matrix which is meaningful for the team. Otherwise, forget the trust, they will also ignore those metrics,
Oh,
right? They will not even look at it. So it's important that any matrix which is abstract, not needed, will obviously be ignored or not trusted, right? So create it along with your team to understand what they really want, and then create it to show how we are improving against it. Then it makes more sense, I feel.
wonderful. Yeah, Deepa, thank you for that elaborated answer. Okay, let's move on. So the next question is on our definition of done. So if you can share from your past experience where the definition of done was not there or it's pretty unclear for the team, so that will create a lot of chaos and uncertainty in your team. So how
Hmm.
you help your team to establish and have a proper shared understanding with respect to definition of done? Yeah.
Okay. So definition of done is again like one of the key practices, right, of Agile. And by definition of done is it is not done until everybody thinks it is done. I always say this. Why I say this is because definition of done is like a checklist, right? It is about your quality check that you are doing on the story that is being developed. Now, my PO based on acceptance criteria will accept the story, right? But am I adhering to the quality practices and the right quality practices that we all agreed on to? So definition of done is like that that social contract for quality gate, I say, right? We will do this testing, we will do unit testing, we will write, the architectural, we'll ensure that these things are there, we will ensure that we have got all the necessary regulatory and these things documented where needed. These are important because if you miss this, and on the day of, when you are actually planning to go live, you will all be blocked because if these things are not in place, right? So typically, at the very beginning only, whenever I start any new for engagement, I ensure that we have a like a definition of done canvas workshop with all the key stakeholders who are responsible for that story, which typically includes the team, whether it's the developers, like QA, PO, everybody, right? All the roles, and plus of course me, so that I ensure that they are talking about the various aspects of the user story. And based on my learning also in past projects, so if it is like, I'll give you some examples, right? So if it is, let's say, about a banking project, right? Like it's a banking, so you have to actually see, do I have approval from the legal to go ahead and make this change? Have taken the, so you can say that this is also part of my definition of ready. So to ensure that, hey, have you done? But in definition of done, have I made those entries into the legal documents, where regulatory documents, where I had to make the entries for this change to go, right? So the definition of done talks about ready, talks about the readiness of the story. So there you should already see what are the various elements like financial, regulatory, legal, kind of activities. And if there is anything related to that, your definition of done along with the checklist of the quality should also include that, yes, I have made those entries in those particular parameters. So I think that will help ensuring that the quality is met for the story.
Wonderful, Deepa. I think we have finished all our questions for the day within the time.
Fantastic.
So yes, it's almost 40 minutes, I guess, 30, 40 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you, Deepa. And thank
Thank
you
you.
all of our friends who are joining us today for this session. We hope you found it helpful and informative. And if you enjoyed the session, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we hope to see you in our next session very soon. Until then, take care. This is Sunan Sharma signing off along with Deepa. Thank you and bye. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you.